Hey everybody, I'm Adam Biggers, and you are watching the Sports in the Mitten video podcast powered by Mr. Spots of Arbor. And I'm flying solo today. Thomas Bendit is my co-host, and he is busy doing lawyer stuff on a Friday, so I don't envy him. But what I'll do is I'll discuss the first round of the 2017 NFL Draft, specifically the two Michigan Wolverines who were selected in the first round. I thought that there were three guys, honestly, that had a really good shot. Chris Wormley's still on the board. He's a top 10 ranked defensive end and defensive tackle. And that versatility obviously is a plus heading into the NFL. The same was true for Taco Charlton, who could be used as a stand-up linebacker in some packages. He was selected as well. So I'll start with Taco because I'll talk plenty about Jabrill, and I think I have in the past few days. So Taco, the 28th overall pick going to the Cowboys. He had a draft grade of 6.3. He was the highest graded Michigan Wolverine according to NFL.com's draft grade. So if that carries any weight with you. 6'6", 277 pounds. We saw him last year. He wasn't even at full health. 10 sacks, 9.5, 10. I think it depends where you look, but we'll call it 10. And ideal, really. I mean, long-limbed guy, great pass rusher, disruptive in the passing lanes, athletic, strong. Taco's everything I think that you want in a defensive end, edge rusher kind of guy. So that great pickup for the Cowboys. I think Dallas has kind of had its own history of great defensive linemen and offensive linemen, but great defensive linemen. So I think that that's a pretty good fit. Jabrill going to the Browns at number 25, and it was, all the discussion about the dilute sample, and then, the character, I'll call it a character assassination, because I think it was totally unfounded and just leaked, during draft week. Danny Cannell, a notoriously former ESPN guy, he went out and said that Michigan players had told him that Jabrill Peppers faked the injury. And I think if anybody follows me on Twitter, at AdamBiggers81, saw that I had a response to that. And I don't believe that Danny had anything else to say about that. So I think that that issue was pretty much taken care of. I could tell, and I've said this in the past podcasts, I've said this for, ever since people have been doubting Jabrill. I watched him warm up at the Orange Bowl. He was hurt. I talked to him in the locker room. He was hurt. He was upset that he didn't play. And he tweeted out something earlier in the day, or I believe it may have been from yesterday. I think it was probably late last night. He said, "Speculate on what you want, but my love for this game should never be questioned. Never would I fake an injury to miss a game." And I believe that. And like I said, I talked to him. I watched him at the Orange Bowl. So I'm pretty certain Cleveland's getting a hell of a guy, right? And I read some tweets, and it was kind of funny that some of them were saying, well, as a new guy to Cleveland, own your Michigan, your Michigan stardom, and they'll respect you for it in Ohio. So it's kind of funny. I've had a couple of people comment, on some posts, and it is kind of funny because Cleveland Browns, being in Ohio, maybe one of their favorite players ends up being a Michigan player. Jabrill can do it all. I mean, he really can, and I think that he's going to be an excellent safety if that's the way that he's used. But I think that he'll, we've seen him return kicks, we've seen him do all kinds of stuff. I mean, will he be a gadget player in the NFL? I mean, I don't even know. I mean, there's a chance Cleveland might tinker around with him a little bit, right? I mean, they changed Terrell Pryor from a quarterback, he was at Ohio State, to a wide receiver. And that was probably more out of necessity, maybe that Terrell wasn't an NFL quarterback, but at the same time, you have to like the options at least. And if you're the Cleveland Browns, I think you had a hell of a first round. I mean, you got Myles Garrett, picked up a really good tight end too. So if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, at least you won the draft, or the first round, we'll say, with Garrett and Peppers, to me, two of the most outstanding players available in this draft. Second, third rounds begin tonight, and I believe it's 7 o'clock ESPN, and then it switches over, 7 o'clock ESPN 2, and then switches over to ESPN at 8. Check your local listings for that, and or I'll try to post the times when I post the show. So I wrote something recently on FanRag Sports, and I posted that yesterday. I posted it again this morning. basically when I expected guys by day. I wasn't going to say, okay, Jabrill is going to be the 25th pick to the Cleveland Browns, and I didn't get that specific because not that I don't want to. I feel like it is kind of just a waste of time. You're literally, I'm not an NFL scout. I don't have the board in front of me. I don't know exactly what those teams are looking for. As far as what teams need, just based on guys who are departing, that sort of thing, or where they need the strength. That's the only thing that you can really base it on. So I didn't do that, so I do apologize for that. But I did kind of go into day one guys, and like I said, I figured Jabrill would be a day one guy. Even after all the talk, I didn't think there was any possible way he got out of the first round. There was no way in my mind that Jabrill got into the second round. Just absolutely no way possible. Same with Charlton. I figured that he would be a late first round pick. And I really believe that Chris Wormley, like I said, I really believe that Chris had a chance to go in the first round. With that said, I think Chris is probably going to be the first Michigan guy taken off the board today. I've seen some mock drafts with him going to the Oakland Raiders, and because evidently they're known for taking some risks in the second round as far as a high reward, a high risk, high reward pick. So, and I look a lot on the Walter Football mock drafts, and not necessarily because they're the most accurate, but I feel like they provide a little bit more information than other sites do, where they'll just say, okay, this guy's name, this team, this pick, and okay, that's what. Okay, thanks. You still have to do a little bit more research. So, good job to those guys at Walter Football. And like I said, Wormley, top 10 defensive tackle and defensive end. Definitely one of the best guys remaining, regardless. But I cover Michigan. This podcast is about Michigan sports, Michigan State sports. So, Wormley, for you guys, because that's probably what you're most interested in. Wormley is going to be the guy to watch too. And my buddy Justin Diggin from high school, Justin High, hopefully you're watching. He had some interesting comments about Jourdan Lewis because he hasn't seen Jourdan in the top 5 cornerbacks available. I think anybody with a pulse knows that Jourdan, and specifically for the past 2 years, was one of the best cornerbacks, top 5 easily in the country. The domestic violence charge, to which he pleaded not guilty. And sometimes, if you enter a guilty plea, not guilty, that's all based on the lawyers. I don't know what happened. And domestic violence can be defined as, it's a broad term. We've all read the reports, but there are also counter reports stating that Jourdan's girlfriend attacked him. I'm in no shape or form condoning domestic violence. You should never, engage in that. Don't even argue. Don't do any of that stuff. But we weren't there, so we don't know exactly what happened with Jourdan. So that is going to be a concern, and I'm sure that teams have been grilling him, because there's no question about his ability on the field. And I can tell you, just for the past 3-4 years, my interactions with Jourdan, always a polite guy, always very cordial, and I'm sure they're not going to come out and just be jerks and they want to put their best foot forward, but like I said in past podcasts, I feel like after so many different media availability sessions, so many different, whether it's a phone call or face-to-face interview, that kind of stuff, I feel like that you get some sort of a grasp on their personality. I could be way off base, but I think that Jourdan, probably a guy that made a mistake. To my knowledge, he doesn't have a track record of getting in trouble, so this was obviously a major mistake. I don't think it's something that's necessarily going to ruin his career. Hopefully it's something that he learns from, and it's something that does not dramatically affect his draft stock. Because I think, depending on what you're looking for, talent-wise, if we're looking at pure stats, talent-wise, if we're looking at that Wisconsin interception, one of the best interceptions I've ever seen, if we're looking at all the pass breakups, All-American status, all Big Ten, yada, 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 quality-wise, probably first-round talent. I don't think that you could really argue against that. Second round for sure. I expect Jourdan to go today, and I've seen some mocks having the Seattle Seahawks, and we've seen the stuff with Richard Sherman. Is Richard going to leave? And obviously he's quite a bit bigger. I think he's like 6'3", and he's got 20 pounds. He's around 215, 220. He's a big guy, right? And different type of corner. But I mean, if Richard Sherman's leaving and he's your guy, I mean, you're going to be in search of somewhere. And I think with Jourdan Lewis, maybe he is a possibility for Seattle in the second round, or a possibility for any team that's looking for help in the secondary, right? Because I mean, that's the position that he plays. So, talent-wise, I do like what Jourdan Lewis has to offer. I think he's a smart player, and you know, Justin did make a comment too. I mean, the system, are the defensive players just benefiting from systems that make them look good? Well, they've had two systems. And really the defense has been pretty good for the past 3-4 years, but the past 2 years in particular. So with DJ Durkin and with Don Brown, two different coordinators, two #1 defenses, two different styles. I mean, both aggressive, but Don Brown a little bit more aggressive. I mean, I think obviously if you're a great player, you're going to look great in those type of systems. I think if you're an okay player, you're going to look maybe a little bit better. But in the case of a guy like Jourdan, in the case of a guy like Chris Wormley, I don't think that they're, you know, necessarily beneficiaries of, you know, Don Brown's system making them look good. I think that they played in a pro-style system and they looked good doing it. And Jim Hunt, I mean, it's all pro style, everything at Michigan. You know, it's all being geared. And I know that Harbaugh joked about wanting Michigan to be, you know, like the 32nd NFL team, you know, when he got hired. So that's the mentality there. With Jourdan, I mean, I feel like he's got to be, I mean, talent-wise, he's a second-round pick. Unless there's evidence out there that I don't know that just is, I guess, bad, for lack of a better term, right? Because when we talk about domestic violence, maybe it can get a little bit nasty. So, I mean, we don't know exactly what happened. So those charges, that case, that's going to influence it. But again, like I said, with the NFL scouts, they're going to do all their due diligence. They're going to find out, you know, when are the court dates? What is going to be the end result of this? Is there a chance that this gets resolved, thrown out of court, everything like that? And again, he pleaded not guilty, so there's a chance that maybe that goes to trial, and then what happens from there. So keep your eyes peeled. And again, I'm kind of circling back here, but keep an eye out on Chris Wormley. Had Jake Butt not suffered that injury, and I mean, that's no fault of his own, but you do have to take it into account. And Jake has had ACL and knee problems in the past, but he's a two-time reigning Big Ten tight end of the year. One of the best college tight ends, I think, that I've seen, at least in my adult life. And I think, you know, if you go back 15, 20 years, Jake Butt's got to be probably one of those 10, 20 guys that you mentioned as far as, you know, really good college tight ends with, you know, let's just say since 2000. I think you have to at least mention Jake in there. So I don't expect him to go today. The rounds 4 through 7, I think he might be a fourth or fifth rounder. Talent-wise, certainly. I mean, again, if you're looking for a tight end, an athletic tight end, Jake can pass block, great teammate kind of guy, just a solid overall player. I think that Jake Butt, you know, certainly an early round talent. And again, it depends on what the team needs. But for the sake of just kind of being generic, I would expect Jake to be a fourth or a fifth round pick. Other guys that I think Amara Darboh is going to be a steal in this draft, and he doesn't have the big name that a lot of guys do, but if you look at like just the top 25 receivers, Amara has like the 5th or 6th fastest 40, and we're talking about like literally splitting hairs here with the top 5. I mean, other than there was a 4.2 guy, but I mean 4.43, 4.42, Amara's 4.45, so he's right there, right? And then there's other guys that are 4.56 and you know, high 4.5. So in terms of speed, we've all seen, you know, Amara's a blazer. He's pretty quick. I think that you have to look out. Great hands. I mean, that catch against BYU in 2015, still one of the better catches that I've seen. Certainly one of the, you know, kind of highlights of the Harbaugh era. So watch out for Amara, but I would think probably tomorrow he would go. As far as in terms of today, Friday, April 28th, Chris Wormley, Jourdan Lewis, I can almost bank on those guys. I mean, I really thought, like I said, I really thought that Chris would be a first rounder. I cannot see, maybe I regret saying this, because I did say that Malik McDowell would be selected for Michigan State before Jabrill would, and that wasn't the case. But I would be surprised if Jourdan does slide out of the second round. I think I would. As far as other guys are concerned, Eric Magnuson, big pickup. He was starting right tackle. I remember talking to him on Pro Day. Teams loved his versatility, and he was kind of surprised because he didn't think that he had necessarily the size to play on the outside in the NFL. He viewed himself more as a guard, but they said, no, you're everything other than a center. You know, left to right, guard, tackle. So that's I think Eric Magnuson, maybe he's a fifth, third to fifth round guy. Third, Saturday I think would be high end for him, but third to fifth round would be in there for him. I think Kyle Kalis is probably a later guy, starting right guard. I think he, maybe a sixth or seventh rounder. I think you got to watch out for J.U. and DeMonte. J.U. Chesson, another fast receiver. DeMonte Thomas, another one of those defensive backs who, that was an all Big Ten defense, 10 starters, all Big Ten in some capacity. So, Ryan Glasgow, another guy. I did mention some wild cards, and I might throw Davion Smith in the wild card consideration. I did have him as, being a guy who would get drafted probably, late Saturday would be a guy. But my wild cards from Michigan, Kenny Allen, kicker and punter. Jeremy Clark, he's eligible. Did not get the 6th year, so he's eligible for the draft. Smart player. He was a guy who was calling a lot of shots for the defenses in 2015 under DJ Durkin. He was doing a little bit of that, not as much in 16, but he is a smart player, respected by teammates. Never really, at least in my eyes, I don't think we ever really saw the best of Jeremy Clark at Michigan because, again, he had injuries. So those will be the questions, but maybe he's an undrafted free agent guy. I put him in that wild card category. Matt Godin as well, 5th-year guy, really respected his grind. I think that Matt, he doesn't have a lot of mileage on his body, and I'll almost compare Matt in a sense to a defensive version, except for he didn't transfer. But if you remember Thomas Rawls out of Michigan, very seldom used back, ended up transferring to Central Michigan, had like 1,500 rushing yards in like 8 games or something, got hurt, and then ended up as an undrafted free agent, and now look what, he's a starting running back in Seattle. So Thomas didn't have a lot of mileage on his body, and I remember I was at Thomas's draft day party, and I remember him telling me that actually scouts and coaches and stuff, that was something that I was telling them. And to hear him tell me that scouts and coaches were, reaffirming that, he was like, yeah, Adam, they told, the mileage thing, and that was kind of a plus. And Thomas did have injuries. Matt Godin doesn't have the injury history. I mean, he's had a little bit of bumps and bruises, as all football players do, but he doesn't have, Thomas had ACL injuries, he had ankle injuries, and that kind of stuff. But that's where I'm kind of looking at the comparison when you look at a guy, potential. I think people thought that Thomas had potential, and I believe that he showed it. I think that Matt Godin has potential, and I believe that he can show it. And again, he's had enough in-game experience. He's had enough experience as a whole being with the program, but I don't think that he has that heavy in-game mileage on him, and maybe that does serve as an advantage. And I think anybody who's ever talked to Matt or interviewed him realize that he's a very intelligent guy. So, football, regardless, you can have the size, and this kind of applies to sports in general, but, you could be a big guy, prototypical size, and all that stuff, and have athleticism, but if you're not very smart, then a smaller guy with maybe less athleticism can beat you out. So Matt has the size, and he also has the intelligence. So undrafted free agent, I expect him to at least get a shot. So I'll put it that way. So those are the wild cards: Kenny Allen, Jeremy Clark, Matt Godin. I'll go through my list one more time. My weekenders, which would be the Saturday picks, I have Amara Darboh, Ryan Glasgow, linebacker Ben Gedeon, offensive lineman Eric Magnuson, and Kyle Kalis. And then also Delano Hill, safety, and cornerback Channing Stribling. And I want to make sure, I think I maybe left out Kyle on this. I did. I'm going to have to add him. Sorry, Kyle. So anyway, I was thinking about it, but then I think I wrote it and skipped over that part. But anyway, check it out. It's on FanRagSports.com. I've tweeted it at my account, at AdamBiggers81. You can follow us on Sports in the Mitten, at Mitten Sports MI, sportsinthemitten.com. And again, I want to thank Tim and Keith at Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor for keeping me fed every time I go down there to cover the Wolverines. Really appreciate it, guys. Appreciate everybody watching. Again, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to the Sports in the Mitten channel, and stay tuned all throughout the weekend for Michigan and Michigan State related NFL draft topics. I'm Adam Biggers. Thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you guys next time.